Coming up in this episode.
To be honest, I often think, how would I deal with a dementia diagnosis? I don't think I could handle it the way you have.
Welcome to My Life with Dementia, a podcast from Dementia UK. I'm Kweli Bikini. After losing my dad to vascular dementia, I wanted to share stories of other families who are facing dementia and finding a way through it. So in this series, you'll hear how people are adjusting to life with dementia or the loss of a loved one, and how Dementia UK specialist Admiral Nurses can be there for you in the toughest moments. If this is your first time listening, welcome. You can find a link to Dementia UK's helpline in the show description and a wealth of information in every episode. If you're joining us again, welcome back. Ronnie was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's disease when she was 49 years old. She and her husband Tony have two children, Will and Lizzie, who were just 16 and 18 at the time. Lizzie stayed at home in Wales and became Ronnie's main carer, while Will moved to Shrewsbury to start a small business. Despite living in different places, Will has found his own ways to support his family and make his mum proud.
So what was I like growing up? What do you remember of me from birth to...
From birth, Lizzie came along first. Lizzie never slept. Lizzie you could put on the floor and she'd stay there and play for hours. Then Will came along. You were a big boy. I remember the pictures, you looked like you were two. And you were just, you slept really well. You were into everything. You were so mischievous.
I've heard people talk about becoming a parent sort of changes your life, or you look at things different. What did becoming a parent do for you?
It was the best thing I've ever done in my life. I always wanted to have children, but you don't know what's going to happen. You wonder sometimes, will I love that child? Will there be enough love for two children? As soon as you're born, it's like the love is pouring out, but also I became lioness, in as much as I know I would have done anything to protect both of you. And that doesn't go away. That carries on into adulthood. It's the best thing ever. And the memories, I can't remember, some of the things we've done since I've been diagnosed, I can't remember, but when we talk, I get this such a lovely feeling. And then it gradually comes back. And it's like my oxygen, it's my sunshine, it's what keeps me going.
What are some of your fondest memories about me and you kind of during my childhood?
My fondest memories are when we started going to Amsterdam. You were a teenager then. I think we went about 6 times in about 3 years, just the two of us. And I think at that point I probably had got dementia but didn't know, and I felt quite secure because I knew my way around. That was like one-on-one quality time. We'd go to nice places to eat.
Those trips to Amsterdam happened between 2013 and 2015. And it was during that period that the first signs of Ronnie's Alzheimer's disease began to manifest. Though at the time, Will had no idea.
What made you initially think there's something up to start the process?
It was things like I couldn't use the microwave at home. I suddenly couldn't use the oven. It was things like socks in the fridge. I'd say I'd do something with you. It didn't happen. I used to drive all over the country without a sat-nav, but I'd go to the same places, every 3 months. Suddenly I got lost. I couldn't see steps anymore. My balance was off. Got very tired afternoon, I'd go into work earlier. I'd get into work for about 6 a.m. because by lunchtime I couldn't function. Anything I did after lunch, I would have to check the day after. Do
you start by going to your local doctor? What's the first step?
Yeah, I went to my GP 3 times because they tried to put me on antidepressants. And I'm like, I am not depressed. This is something going on with, my cognitive skills. Well, they tried fobbing it off each time, but it got harder. So in the end, it was like, no, I want referring.
So you had to fight to get referring?
And in fairness, when they did get referred, That happened quite quickly at that point. I was lucky. I was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's at the age of 49.
When someone develops Alzheimer's disease or any other form of dementia before the age of 65, it is known as young onset dementia. Although the diagnosis came swiftly after Ronnie's memory clinic referral, things went very wrong in the delivery of the news. The doctor Ronnie saw when she went to the hospital for her results wasn't a permanent member of the team. He was a locum who'd come out of retirement, and his knowledge of dementia seemed to be out of date with some big gaps.
I think they didn't know what young onset was. It was, you've got dementia, you've got 2 years and you'll be in a home, and then you'll be dead. Get your power of attorney done. And I'm like, but I want to start on the medication. I know it doesn't cure it, but it holds it back. Not worth it. It's not worth giving you the medication. Well, what do I do? What support is there?
The doctor just gave Ronnie a pile of information leaflets,
which I think ended up in recycling. He hadn't got a clue. But he should have done, because he was supposed to be there for me.
A few months later, Ronnie would see another doctor who'd help her get started on the medications she'd asked about. But in this moment, the doctor who delivered the diagnosis left Ronnie feeling utterly hopeless.
Getting the diagnosis was, that was whoa. I went back to my office, I locked the door, I sat in my swivel chair, and I remember going round and round and just crying my eyes out. And then having to get home and be like everything was all right.
It had taken Ronnie 3 years to finally get a dementia diagnosis. And all through that time, she never told Will and Lizzie, or her husband Tony, anything about it. Even when she began to consider leaving her job with North Wales Police, they had no idea of the reason behind her decision.
You always loved work, and suddenly you were talking about retirement.
Yeah.
So all I knew is you were going through the process of retiring. And then maybe only in hindsight, I remember you struggled to do some of the maths with finances for the church.
Oh, yeah, treasurer of church.
Or you'd maybe go past the turning. But I didn't see that as an alarm bell at the time.
No.
Because I suppose I had no idea about really dementia. I just pictured, our grandparents in their 70s and 80s in a vinyl chair in a care home, and you're kind of told they can't remember things, or, not a mum that's 49 at the time.
Yeah.
But something that I struggle to get my head around is, for a number of years, you were going through worry and then the process to get and to fight for a diagnosis, a terminal diagnosis. And I don't remember noticing any worry or concern. You were doing it alone.
As a family, we've always been so open. Whenever we've gone through, the good or the bad, we've always shared everything. And looking back, that support would have been so good. But I also thought it would have been so selfish. If you'd lived with that, and then, it would have been wonderful. If I hadn't got it, you'd have had all that time worrying. And you were children. That wasn't fair. You were young teenagers. I wanted you to be having fun, living, not thinking about ifs, buts and maybes.
But how did you actually manage to mask it so well?
It was very lonely. There was lots of tears on my own. Because of the way they diagnosed me, that nearly destroyed me.
It was now 2016, and having been told by the doctor that she might only have a few more years, Ronnie decided it was time to share what she was going through with the rest of her family.
That Christmas, you and Dad were going skiing, so I didn't tell you before you went. I told Lizzie. I don't remember telling Lizzie. She immediately said she wanted to be my carer, which broke my heart. Not in as much as obviously, Lizzie, yes, as my carer, she's amazing, but it was like I was taking her life away from her. I don't remember telling Dad. I think I did it, I got back from skiing. I do remember telling you, we were in your bedroom, and I remember you saying to me, I can stay at home or I can make you proud. And to me, there was no contest because you needed to get away from North Wales. There was nothing going on. Do you remember you wanted to go to Shrewsbury and be part of the crew, and that's where you needed to be. And And let's be fair, you know, I mean, I nearly lived in Shrewsbury afterwards. I think I was there the week after you'd gone there. And that helped me because, you know, the things we did, you know, you treated me as a normal person. I mean, I didn't tell people, only very, very close family. I told some friends, some I lost.
Why didn't you tell people?
Because the church I was going to at that time, you know, I was treasurer, safeguarding officer. I watched how they treated people who were diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but were like me. They couldn't be on the tea committee. They couldn't stir a cup of tea. They couldn't be on the welcome committee. And they'd literally guide them into church, put them in a pew with a book. And what you need is conversation. You need to keep your brain working. Nobody talked to them.
You say you told friends and some of them kind of
Yes, one of my closest friends, and I understand this completely, it was almost like she had to grieve and she couldn't accept it. And I lost her for 12 months, but I was very lucky she came back to me. And it hurt me, but I did understand it. And it does affect, if someone's close to you, they love you, and they're thinking they're going to lose you. So I wasn't selfish about it, but when she came back, I was very happy.
Now that Ronnie's family were on this journey with her, she could turn her attention to what she wanted to do with her life, post-diagnosis. And it was to make the most of her time with them.
When I got my diagnosis, the making memories was for you, Lizzie and Tony to have after I'd gone. Because that was so important to me. Because, you know, I didn't fit second, you know, I'd be there when you got married. I'd be there when you sort of decided what you were going to do, children.
I remember that being a thing. I suppose at the time I was in, you know, early relationships, and I remember feeling a subconscious pressure of like, oh, do I
when I bought the pram? No.
Yeah. Do I speed things up because I want them to be there and see these things? You know, but it's human for us to think that. And I think eventually I always wondered, like, do I stay and help like Lizzie, or do I go away and do stuff? And the answer is somewhere in between. Like, I think we all share the load. Don't get me wrong, I feel like tremendous guilt, like for what Liz and now Dad do as well all the time. You know, like Liz to me, to the world, is largely invisible, and that's so wrong. Like,
but what you have to remember is that quite often you can be in Shrewsbury and you create calm at home. We're very similar, I think. You can calm me down and make life so much easier for them. One that sticks in my mind was COVID. I had to shield, and you were living in Church Stretton, and you'd FaceTime me walking through the hills. And I'd hear the birds and I'd see my favourite mountains. And it was like I was walking with you. And as you got back, there was always a gate that squeaked and I knew you were nearly back at yours.
One thing I remember about sort of shortly after diagnosis was we were driving in a car, and somehow the subject of you questioning life came up because of being told you've got a thing that's going to go a certain way, being told, I remember feeling like they said 2 to 5 years, which felt like nothing. I remember us having a conversation, actually just being level-headed and talking mutually about the logic of suicidal thoughts, which is kind of mad. And I'd never thought I'd have that chat. How did you get through those questions of what's life, at this point?
I suppose it was a grieving process from, suddenly I gave up work. I didn't know how long I was going to be with my babies. But because of how they diagnosed it, I was manic. I mean, Lizzie said I would go out and she'd be scared I wouldn't come home. And I was that low, and I'd never been in that place before. But I started Googling, and I found Admiral Nurses.
Dementia UK's Admiral Nurses are specialist dementia nurses. They offer free advice and support to people living with dementia and their families and carers. Ronnie called Dementia UK's free helpline.
And I waited till you were all at the house, and I phoned up and I cried and I cried. But they gave me a glimmer of hope. It wasn't the end of the world. I could have a life. I could have a useful life. I could see more of my family growing up.
Around this time, Ronnie started doing advocacy work, trying to change things so no one else would have to experience what she did getting her diagnosis. And she got involved with a group at Bangor University, educating trainee doctors, nurses, and social work students about how to support people living with dementia. It all stemmed from that first phone call to Dementia UK's Admiral Nurses.
So say that call you had, you said that you found hope.
Yeah.
What did you talk about that
I honestly can't remember. It was like, I know it was a breath of fresh air because it wasn't negative. Everything up to that point with doctors, nurses had been negative. You know, there's not going to be a happy outcome. You will end up in a home. It was all negative. There was no mention of the stages in between. And the early stages, you know, I'm on 2 forms of meds for the dementia. And I do believe they are holding it back.
So say the first diagnosis told you you've got 2 years.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
8 years?
Nearly 10.
Yeah. Because I didn't think I'd see my 50th. There's my 60th coming up.
For the first 6 years after getting her diagnosis, Ronnie still didn't want to tell anyone beyond her immediate family and a small number of close friends. And this meant that Will also couldn't really speak to many people about it. He was having to process a lot of emotions and fears without any real outlet.
It was the one subject that I couldn't really think about because it would pull the rug from me. I just started a small business and I was like, I have to be on it. So I then found out about charity running and fundraising for dementia causes. So started doing that and they gradually got bigger and bigger and longer. And I found that doing sort of, I call them like daft challenges, but these ultra endurance stuff where you're 18 hours in the middle of nowhere, that's where I learned to dance with what was going on and think about it, because I knew it couldn't affect what I was doing each day. But at the same time, it was my way of helping with raising money and sparking conversations about dementia. And I suppose the same way you sort of kept it in for 3 years, I definitely struggled to think about it. But then eventually that kind of changed. And now it's kind of, I think that phone call you had with Dementia UK, I only now know about that recently because you hid it from us. But the fact is I don't know where you'd be without that call. And in a strange way, like the amount of life you've lived since, from, you know, not telling people about it to now telling anyone you can about it, and changing the way the health system treats people with dementia. I see that as a key point in changing it. And to be honest, I often think, how would I deal with a dementia diagnosis, or other young people whose parents have it that I've spoke to? The elephant in the room is, will we get it? You know, because there's not a clear message about, is dementia genetic?
This question is especially relevant for people in Will's position. In the majority of cases, dementia isn't inherited. But rare genetic forms of dementia are more common in people who have young onset dementia.
I don't think I could handle it the way you have, like, you know, it's facing that life, but then also to turn it and really, I don't know, you're kind of fighting it for future generations. So it's, all I can do is be inspired by what you do every day. Like, if we were to get the news today, like, I suppose I know because I've looked into the subject a bit more, but the Dementia UK helpline exists for people like me and people like Liz as well. Like, it's not just
everyone.
You know, the dementia is kind of a diagnosis of the family in a strange way, because a life-changing diagnosis means you have to change your life, and that's everyone.
Yeah, it's not just me.
Yeah. Fairly recently, I feel like we've been doing much more together.
Yeah.
And in a strange way, it's like, I almost wish that life meant I could have done that more often earlier. Because it's just like, I don't know, and I've started taking more pictures and videos and stuff.
Yeah,
because I suppose people, and it's like, you actually think this stuff's priceless, it's so important, because there will be a day that we can't do that and things will change. It wasn't until recently I realised that, in a strange way, subconsciously, what I think I'm doing is doing what I can't, which is try and stop this thing taking you.
Yeah.
So I'm frantically trying to swim upstream doing these things. And initially that energy meant I'd do this stuff, whereas now it's, you know, I want to make you proud. I want you to somehow live these things through whatever I'm doing, or you talk about, you might not remember a memory, but you remember a feeling. If I can intensify that feeling during these things, you know, it's...
I mean, you don't have to make me proud. I am so proud of both you and Lizzie.
The hero in this is my sister, your daughter, Lizzie, right? Like, she's been caring for you since day one, and, you know, she's not an outspoken character,
No.
but she's the smartest person I know, and wouldn't have it any other way. She goes, "This is Mum, this is what I do." And I think it sucks that society sees carers largely as invisible, and the systems treat them in such a poor way. So I think, how can I do these silly challenges and my voice to try and make what Lizzie does and people like Lizzie make it more visible? Because currently it's just not fair.
One thing that Will's done is to make a documentary. His film, Run to Remember, came out in 2022. It documents Will's passion for ultra-endurance running and how he used it to raise money and awareness for dementia causes. Will's documentary also marked a big step for Ronnie. The film was the first place she opened up about her diagnosis beyond her close family and friends.
I came out with your documentary and it's like, you know, I'm Ronnie, I've got dementia, and I shout about it now, loud and proud. I mean, the taxi driver, I tell everybody, and it'll start conversations. If it helps someone, or if someone's been mistreated in hospital, or the project I'm doing with the ambulance service, the fact that I've managed to change how an ambulance looks inside, so it's dementia friendly, which also means it's autism friendly, that blows my mind that I've been able to have that impact. And as long as I can keep doing that, but also having fun and us doing our stuff, I do, every night I go to bed, I worry I won't be myself in the morning. And I thank God the next morning that I am me. But I'm praying there's a lot more of me to come. Look out.
A huge thanks to Will and Ronnie for being so open about how they've navigated Ronnie's dementia diagnosis together. If you're in a similar situation to Will and Ronnie, you may find our next episode especially useful. Dementia UK Admiral Nurses Hilda and Vic dive deeper into some of the themes that came out in the episode, offering advice from their perspectives as specialist dementia nurses. Hilda and Vic's episode will be out 2 days after this one, so look out for it in your podcast feed. This has been an episode of My Life with Dementia, a podcast from Dementia UK. Please subscribe in your podcast app to get new episodes as soon as they come out. And if you've enjoyed this episode, why not share it with someone you think might find it useful? You can take a look at the show notes for a link to our support services, which include online resources, ways to contact Dementia UK helpline, and information about Admiral Nurse Clinics. Thank you so much for listening.